and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World with me, Hashim Kumar. The multinational Joint Expeditionary Force, JEF, has activated a new operation centred around a UK-led and artificial intelligence-based reaction system capable of assessing threats to undersea cables and monitoring movements of Russia's shadow fleet. Dubbed Nordic Warden, the operation began last week, said the UK Ministry of Defence in a statement on Monday, and follows reports of a Russian oil tanker suspected of causing damage to the Estlink undersea cable in the Baltic Sea. To throw some light on the situation, we're joined by Professor Andrew Tettenborn of Swansea University and a regular contributor. Professor Tettenborn, welcome back to TV World and a Happy New Year to you.
And a Happy New Year to you and good evening.
Good evening, sir. So what is this JEF and how is it different to NATO?
Well, I think that actually is a very important question to ask. If you look at the countries involved in Operation Nordic Warden, you will see that there is one very noticeable absentee, which is the United States. And I think it does show the countries of Northern Europe at least showing some willing to take a part in their own defense against the Russian bear, rather than relying too much on the US umbrella. And I think that's actually highly significant. And it also is dealing with two very important things that the Russians are doing. One is that it deals with what's called the Russian shadow fleet. Now, that probably needs a bit of explanation. Russia makes most of its money through the export of oil, but it is currently sanctioned by most countries in Europe. So it is having to export that oil. Most of it is being bought by India and China, but there are a number of other countries also taking part. But in order to do that, it has to have a large number of ships which can't be traced back to Russia. And essentially, that's what the shadow fleet is. It's between 300 and 600 ships. Nobody's quite sure how many. Most of them are oil tankers. They're all registered for obvious reasons outside Russia, and the ownership of those vessels is kept obviously very much under wraps. But those are the vessels that are being used in order to carry on Russia's trade in oil. The other point about these, and I see you just put up a picture of the Eagle S, which is one of the vessels involved, actually. She is registered in the Cook Islands, which are a sort of New Zealand dependency. She's registered in the Cook Islands. Nobody's quite sure who owns her, but she is the one who is suspected of having done something to the Estlink 2 cable. Now, again, bit of explanation there. Under the Gulf of Bothnia, which runs between Finland and Estonia, there are two cables to essentially unite the electricity grids of the two countries, which are called Estlink 1 and Estlink 2. Estlink 2 was mysteriously damaged a little time ago, and the suspicion is that this was done pretty well deliberately by the tanker, the Eagle S. What we understand is that the Eagle S placed itself over the cable, dropped its anchor, and then proceeded to drag its anchor. And certainly it's rather suspicious that when the vessel was eventually brought, I think, into a Finnish port, and they were asked to show one of their anchors, they couldn't do it. There was a chain, but nothing at the end of it. But anyway, I think that's the background to it. But it shows that Europe is watching what Russia is doing and doing its best to prevent it defeating sanctions, prevent it from mischief.
Indeed. Andrew, so thanks for laying that out. Now, NATO is organising a closer, if you like, military response, closer, cooperation between the countries in the Baltic. And so that seems already to be in hand, but the Joint Expeditionary Force is kind of more to the west of that. Is this particular exercise, Nordic Warden, really to look at the North Sea and risks of Russia doing something similar in that area as well?
Oh yes. Nordic Warden covers the North Sea, it covers the English Channel, it covers, I think, the waters of Northern Europe and the north end of the United Kingdom. It's very much actually an intelligence gathering exercise because we want to know what the Russian shadow fleet is. And one aspect of Nordic Warden is to pinpoint those ships which are behaving suspiciously, for example, by illegally turning off their identification signals or illegally carrying out ship-to-ship transfers of oil in order to escape sanctions. What we're doing is coordinating our efforts to find out which those vessels are, with a view to making life difficult for them if they ever call at a British or a European port.
Understood. Now, how would you, in the last couple of minutes that we have left, how would you describe the relationship, if you like, between the Expeditionary Force and NATO? Are they cooperating? Because it sounds as though they should be.
Well, I suspect that there will be a certain amount of exchange of intelligence, though obviously we won't be told about that. When it comes to overt cooperation, frankly, I think the current thinking is that most bets are off until we have the inauguration of the new president of the United States. So I don't think you'll hear anything exciting until that's happened.
Okay, so why do we need JEF, and why, couldn't this have been done by a NATO group?
Well, it could have been done by NATO, but Europe, I think, does have to get used to the fact that it's going to have to sub up, to pay up for a great deal more of its own defence. It's relied for far too long on the American umbrella. And I think one message that may very well be being sent by the mounting of the JEF is a note to the State Department of the US and the Pentagon saying, we are beginning to pull our weight insofar as people in the US may have isolationist feelings and feelings that they should be pulling back from NATO. This isn't the time to do it.
Right.
Again, that's merely a guess on my part, but I suspect it may be a correct one.
Understood. Professor Tettenborn, thank you as always for coming along and sharing your analysis and insights with our audience. Have a good day, sir.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye now. And that's all from us in this episode of World Talks. Good night.